Kia ora, daja hao. When I think about the next big idea in diversity, I think about my own journey. And so I think about being born as the youngest daughter of wonderful Taiwanese parents, and what a huge disappointment I was. I'm the little toddler on the end, and my dad was desperate to have a son. Well, it was all his fault, but my mother felt bad. And I remember my eldest sister continually being told by people, you have to continue to encourage your mother to keep trying to have a son. But they gave up with me, and then something different happened to me. At the age of 6, I carried the shame of being a girl, and then my father. Now, we'll now shoot backwards because these slides are not quite in the right order. My father was an Olympic gymnastics coach. That's him when he was 30. And he took the Taiwan gymnastics team to the Tokyo Olympics. And then Canada tried to get him to train their gymnastics team, and his mother said no because he was her favourite. And then Australia asked if he would go and train their gymnastics team, and she said no, but then she died. And then New Zealand said, come and train our gymnasts. And so we came. That is the reason why we came to New Zealand. And when he saw the size of the gymnasts here, he said, what am I going to do with these people? And that was the women, let alone the men. And when we came to New Zealand, it was different. It wasn't just difficult being a girl. But people kept saying, oh, Ching Chong, Chinaman, you know, why are you here? You should go back to China. And so I realised that actually it wasn't great to be a girl, but actually it wasn't great to be Chinese either. And so I want to challenge you, because I have just spent 3 days at a BNZ board meeting, and I just ran across the road, and we've been busy doing KYC. Now that is not a different form of fried chicken. That is know your customer. And when you look around you, even in this theatre, you can see that half the population in Auckland is already Maori Pacifica and Asian. And what I'm challenging you about with respect to the diversity story, which is actually not about diversity and inclusion and not about equity, it's about the economy, stupid. Actually, if you know your customer, you'll realise that actually a quarter of the population in Auckland right now are actually coloured women. They're not just white women, it's not just gender, and it isn't just race. The difficulty with diversity is we think in terms of single equality lines. We say, oh, you know, we need more women on the board. Generally that means more white women. We say, oh, this is a disability issue. Oh, this is an ethnicity issue. Actually, people are an intersection of many diversity lines. That produces opportunities, because what coloured women need as customers are different. I buy very different skincare products because my skin is a different colour. And similarly, when you think about health and disability services now, because of the new health and safety laws, I actually provide different training for employers and employees who come from different cultures. Why? Because if you come from a different culture, your whole view of disability, illness, health and safety is completely different, because health and safety is very cultural. And I have had CEOs of major Asian companies in my boardroom laughing their heads off when I've tried to explain to them what the new health and safety laws require them to do. They say, you're joking. There's no way we're going to be able to convince, head office of this, or our directors back in Asia. So I want you to think not in terms of single equality lines. And it's been a long time since I've been chair of Global Women, but I am chair of the Superdiversity Centre for Law, Policy and Business. And the next piece of work that we're currently working on is to look at the impact of finding people as they really are. If you really know your customer, you'll actually see that there are a combination of characteristics which make them different in terms of customers, different in terms of their needs, but also different in terms of their challenges. What do I mean by that? I'm currently preparing to argue a case on behalf of all of the midwives of New Zealand. We're challenging the Ministry of Health because under a piece of legislation we don't get paid enough. But actually, the biggest issue in pay equity is not just lead maternity care and midwives. If you look at the stats, what you'll see is that white men get paid the most, followed by white women. Then coloured men, then coloured women. I'm simply saying to you that the world is more complicated. And if we want to know our customer and we want to cater to customer segments and grab those opportunities as well as dealing with the challenges, we need to be more sophisticated in our thinking. It's not just for business, it's also for government. The whole face of the Crown Treaty partner is currently changing. Because when you look at the Crown Treaty partner, it is increasingly made up of people in New Zealand in the 2013 census from 213 ethnicities and 160 different languages, different cultures, different religions, different ways of perceiving things and different understandings of history. So, the new idea, who is Eliza Doolittle now? You're thinking, Eliza Doolittle, which story was that? When I first came to New Zealand, I had to learn everything. I had to learn English, but I had to learn basic things like, that you could eat cheese without cooking it. I didn't know you could eat cheese without cooking it. I thought it was raw, and you had to cook it. There were lots of things I had to learn about living in this culture. I had to get my mind around Marmite. I had to get my mind around licorice. These were not foods in my lexicon. But all I'm challenging you about now is that actually the people who might have the greatest understanding of the future customer may actually not be people who come from the mainstream. We are increasingly, through the megatrend of urbanisation, living in communities where there are no majorities. And so for all of those who thought they were minorities and on the outside, actually maybe they are becoming a majority. So I'm simply saying to you that a lot of people are assuming that quicker, faster all the time is only digital. But I'm saying that demographic disruption is as real to everyone, and you need to reassess your place in that if you want to future-proof your staffing and if you want to future-proof your business plan, so that you're not just thinking about what you've always known. You're not just presuming about your customer in the way that you've always presumed your customer will stay, but to understand that there is a huge speed, a whoosh, a roar with which New Zealand is changing and the global populations are changing in terms of the mixing, the matching, the mongrelization of us all as there's increasing intermarriage and increasing numbers of mixed race babies. So there we all were. I was so cute, wasn't I, when I was little? I was the little one at the end. We were all swim champions. I was raised by dragon parents. My father taught me to swim at the age of 3 by throwing me in the pool, and before I drowned he tied a rope round my middle and walked me up and down. But I was the under-6 breaststroke champion of Taiwan. So the moral, and this was the first photo of us, the Chen girls, ever in the Christchurch Press many years ago, because that's where we immigrated. And so that was a long time ago, and we were a huge novelty then, but we are not a novelty now. And so when you look at cultural intelligence, and I think about Professor Derek McCormick's C words, I would say to myself, you may find that all of those things that we have never valued in the past may become incredibly valuable in the future. I've worked with many organisations where staff are reluctant to record their ethnicity. That's because they don't know we value it. They don't want anyone to know that they might be different ethnicities. It has not been an advantage to us to date. But what I say to people is that maybe yellow is the new black. Maybe for the first time in New Zealand, I am the right gender and the right colour. So I simply say that cultural capability may be the most important attribute that we are recruiting for. IQ will always be important. EQ will always be important. But cultural capability, not assuming that people are what they seem, but understanding that we all have our own stories and have our own journeys, and as a consequence of that, we might be a mixture of culture and religion and different ways of thinking, may better equip you to, one, KYC, know your customer, but also KYE, know your employee. So your job is not just to move the cultural intelligence line within yourself, to build the cultural capability, to be able to deal with people not like you, to understand them, to service them as customers, but also to service them as citizens or ratepayers, but also to move the cultural capability line in your organisation. Because I have a dream. I think someone else has said that. I have a dream. And that dream is that New Zealand becomes the most successful, super diverse city in the world. And that's not a concept about diversity and inclusion and belonging. That's a concept about our economy, that we could know our customers, we could understand what's happening demographically enough that we could grow our economy, maximise and leverage off what is a very unique attribute in New Zealand, that we have this enormous superdiversity with an extremely significant component of Indigenous peoples. So that's the big idea, and I want you to think about it, because when the research is done by the Superdiversity Centre and it is out, I think what you will find is that so many people will resonate with it, because we are an intersection of so many different equality lines. Thank you very much.